Welcome everyone. For those of you who weren't here yesterday morning, my name is Tafau. I'm the acting manager of the Minimising Gambling Harm program at HPA, and today I'm going to be talking a little bit about using social media to engage your local community. So one of the things when I first started in the role at the start of July, I went around with Michaela to a couple of the sector hui and just asked what some of the stuff that HPA can do to help support you in your roles, using our specific skill set and knowledge. And one of the top things that kind of came up was assistance around using social media more effectively to engage with your communities. So prior to my current role, I was working as a project manager in the mental health program, and spent a lot of time both professionally and personally on social media. So I thought I would share some of the stuff that we do at HPA in the social media space, and give you some kind of general principles and also some specific practical tools that you can use to help you engage more effectively online. So this is just a bit of an outline for today. So but briefly, my background in social, talk a bit about social media for minimising gambling harm services and what that means to you guys, how it might be a bit different from what we do at HPA, and then give you kind of a walkthrough of 7 steps that you can take when you're starting out a social media strategy. And just acknowledging that in the room we've probably got quite a range of experience in social media. Some organisations are quite well along that journey, some are quite at the beginning of the journey, some people in the room will have teams that handle that for them, but hopefully some of this will be useful to all of you. So just a little bit about my background. So as I mentioned previously, I've been, my previous role as a project manager, I was looking after some social campaigns for the mental health program at HPA. So the Lowdown, which is aimed at younger people, 12 to 19 years old. Small Steps, which was the social campaign for depression.org.nz, which most people know as the John Kirwan website, depression website. Also ran the social campaign for the stroke campaign, which was running last year, which focused on Māori and Pacific communities. And I've also got a video on pork crackling on YouTube, which has about 250,000 views for some reason. So really useful information there. But so that's just a little bit about, and I spend too much time on Facebook in my personal life. So why social media? I guess the main thing about it is that it's another way of engaging with your communities. So there's all the stuff that you guys do out in the community, and then there's also stuff that you can do online. And just a bit of a show of hands, who's on social media in their organisation? And then who's on there personally? Yeah, so there's not probably half the room. So a lot of people are on social media, and I think one of the key things is that a lot of our communities who we're wanting to connect with are on social media as well. So, there's a real opportunity to engage with them in that space. You can promote your organisation and your services to them, increase your profile within the community and make yourself more well known. It creates another opportunity, a channel for people to engage with you and for you to engage with them. And it can have a effective impact for a reasonably low cost of investment. So in terms of how that might work for you guys, so one of the comments that we had when we were kind of talking about what we can do to help you guys is that, HPA's got these pages and they've got lots of likes and they've got lots of followers, and we want to do the same things as you guys. And so again, one of the points about, I guess, the difference is that we've got to reach the whole country, basically. And so that's kind of how a lot of our programs, we've got national campaigns, we're trying to reach the whole country. But you guys don't need to do that, because you kind of only really need to reach the people in your area. So the way that you would go about messaging and targeting and how you do all of that stuff is a little bit different to how we would do it. So I'll throw it open to you guys now, and maybe if you can share, if the mic's going around, if anybody can share what some of the stuff that's worked for you in the social space, or what some of your challenges if you're not currently working in that space. Maybe it's, you know, barriers that might be you might have for even getting started in that space. So just throw it out to you guys and share some of your wins and losses and challenges. Nothing? Nobody? Okay, cool. Yes?
I suppose just in terms of our space, we find that, you know, in terms of getting projects approved and I suppose throwing events, we often find ourselves, I don't know if we're doing it to ourselves, but we're often operating within like maybe a shorter time frame. Like we've been told, okay, event now, and then it happens in like 2 months.
Yep.
So like one of the biggest challenges is like trying to get the message out there to as many people as possible, like in such a short time frame. Like maybe we should plan better, but you know, is there any like effective little strategies like for maximum exposure and reach?
In that case, I mean, things that you can do in that space. I mean, there's free ways and there's paid ways. Paid ways is usually, you know, allocating a small amount of budget to geo-targeting posts that promote the event, for example. Probably longer term strategies, if you're looking in the, if you don't have a budget, is more around developing your presence so that the community is aware of you, putting up really good content, creating value for them, which is essentially what we're going to be talking about today. If you've got a presence online that your community is aware of, sharing things that create value for them. If you've held events in the past where you share a lot of images and photos and people, you know, tag yourself in them, that sort of thing, that's kind of a longer term strategy to people being aware of those sorts of events. So that's hopefully, that's kind of like the short answer. And then we'll go into kind of like how you might do that stuff kind of. Any other thoughts, questions before we kick in? And any questions as we go, please feel free to call them out. And also I'll be giving these slides to Hapai as well, so they can make them available to you guys. So in terms of, I guess, you know, if you're starting out a new strategy or you're, you know, wanting to put more effort into it, the reality is it does take a bit of work to set these sorts of things up. So in terms of, you know, having someone in your organization, whether you have a marketing or a comms team who can do that, or just someone who's enthusiastic in this space, I'm quite sure we all know someone who spends the most time in these sorts of spaces. Usually I just say, you know, find the youngest person in your team, give it to them to take responsibility for, but whoever's got the kind of enthusiasm in this space, it's really good to have someone to kind of take a lead on this and really drive it. And hopefully some of the stuff that we're going to be sharing today in terms of the setup, once you've got the your kind of systems set up, hopefully it'll make it a lot easier for these things to kind of go and do on an ongoing basis. So, you know, developing your strategy, batching your content all in one go, so you're not having to think of something every day or every other day, you know, improving things monthly and getting those systems set up so you can just keep rolling out content and engaging with your audiences. So the first step with social is basically, you know, create a plan. What are you going to do? You know, what do you actually want to achieve in this space? And so social media, I think, is quite similar to things like, you know, developing digital apps, where sometimes people say, oh, you've got to be on Facebook, or you've got to be on Instagram or Snapchat or TikTok or whatever. And so, but you've got to have a kind of clear understanding of why you want to be in these spaces in the first place, because you don't want to spend a lot of time and energy on this if you don't really know what you want to do in the first place. So here's a bit of a list of some things that you could be using it for. So you might be wanting to build your profile in your local community. You might be wanting to get people to visit your website. You might be wanting to encourage people, gamblers, to call your service, or if affected others, to recommend your service to others. Promote wider well-being messages to the community, if that's something that your service wants to kind of expand to. And we talked about you know, some of the stuff around wellness and mindfulness that you might be interested in kind of sharing with your community. Promoting your service and your teams, kind of, you know, showing the faces behind the organisation logo to, you know, make people more at ease with connecting with you guys, or demystifying the engagement process with your services to make people feel more at ease with connecting with you guys. Or it might be something else. So this is a bit of an example when we were setting up the Small Steps Facebook page, and we wanted to kind of have a clearer reason of why we were going to set that up. So the rationale around the Facebook page, so we've been running TV ads and social ads or online advertising. We've been running TV and online advertising for about a year or so, but we really knew that our audience is on Facebook as well. And one of the things that's tricky when you're on TV is that you can't really target your messaging and your ads. So we knew that on Facebook it was a lot easier to target to our particular priority audiences. So for Māori, Pacifica, we also had rainbow community, rural, men, deaf community. So we had quite a lot of audiences that we wanted to target with specific messaging that we couldn't necessarily do with our budgets in the other spaces that we were. And we also wanted to be able to pull out information from our website. So we've got depression.org, which is a website, and it had a lot of content that we developed, but we can't put all of that stuff into a TV commercial. So we wanted to be able to pull out content from the website, really useful stuff, and put it where our community is. So that was kind of like why we decided to go on there in the first place. Some of our objectives were drive traffic to the website, encourage people to take small steps or actions in real life, so we'd have practical tips that people could do as part of the content, and increase awareness of the campaign for our priority audiences. So once you decide on what you want to do and who you want to talk to, you got to find them. So first of all, having a think about who you want to reach. So where are they? And for you guys, it's probably going to be in your local communities. How old are they? Are there ethnic groups? Are there particular, is it mums? Is it people with kids? Who's the audience that you're wanting to target? So is there anybody in here who's working in social? Have you got a particular audience? I see some nods. Would you like to share who you?
Oh, I was just like agreeing.
Oh,
no,
okay.
I suppose just in terms of that, we work a lot. We want to, I suppose, get in like a younger demographic. Like we've got, a modest following at present, but yeah, just like targeting, getting more traffic onto our posts and stuff like that, more engagement.
Yeah, cool. And so, so we've got a younger audience. And where do you go for that? Like, where are you? Where's your social currently?
Usually, it's been Facebook traditionally, but because of the I suppose the popularity of Insta now, we're sort of trying to transition into that space as well.
Yep, cool. And that talks to, I guess, the different channels that are out there, Facebook versus Instagram. It's quite interesting because a lot of people say, oh, Facebook's for old people, and Instagram's where all the kids are. Or Snapchat, you should start doing stuff in Snapchat, which is quite interesting because we've tested a few things in Snapchat, but it's not the greatest channel for that sort of stuff. Anybody else? I mean, even if you don't have a social strategy, but you've got a particular audience that you might be wanting to connect with in the community, does anybody from any organisation have?
Yeah, we are using WeChat for the Chinese community.
Yes, excellent. And so do you? So you use WeChat for the Chinese community.
Yeah.
Do you have a particular age range?
Yeah, we have different target audience, like a parenting group. We just want to attract more young parents, and some volunteer group, because we have regularly volunteer training every year. So on the WeChat, you can set up the staff groups. So we have different groups for different.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And so WeChat's kind of like the Chinese equivalent of Facebook. Is that correct?
It's
kind of similar.
It's between Facebook page and the messenger.
Yeah.
You can send out some articles, share articles in the moments, they call moments,
Mm.
and your pictures, your feeling, and also you can talk to each other. We have the
Yeah.
different functions.
Yeah. So it's kind of like that, but for the Chinese community, and so you're going there specifically because that's where your audience is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I should add WeChat to that list there. Anybody else? Have a particular audience? I mean, sometimes you don't, and it's good to think about these things and say, okay, cool, yeah, we've got an audience of, in our area, adults, kind of. But it's good to think about these things because it really helps to, I guess, target your messaging and know who you're talking to when you're in these spaces and just in general. So we kind of mentioned about some of the different channels, so Facebook versus Instagram versus Twitter. So Facebook, it's quite interesting because for the lowdown, we are on Facebook primarily, and I was trying to shift us towards Instagram because a lot of young people are on Instagram, and our strategy of the types of posts we were sharing would quite fit that channel. Facebook is kind of a bit more of a broader approach. You'd find your older audiences are probably on there, and it has a lot more features that you can use in terms of engaging with your community. So you can do, Instagram is primarily things like photos and videos. On Facebook, you can do that. You can do text posts. You can do, you can do events. You can do questions to your communities. So there's a lot more options, and most of the examples I'm going to be talking about are on Facebook for today. But some of the principles can be applied to other channels as well. Does anybody use Twitter? Personally or professionally? Yep. And do you use it for yourself or for your organisation? For work?
I'm only on it so that I can keep an eye
On the work page.
yeah,
Yeah.
otherwise I'll just stay on Facebook.
Yep.
But yeah, our organisation is on Twitter as well.
Yeah. And what do you use it for? Do you use it for anything in particular?
Not really, we use it for everything.
Yeah.
So to promote events, things that we've attended, or post up what we've been, what we're doing, get feedback from communities, we use it for everything. And we've got lots of other services as well.
Yeah.
So we use it for all our other services.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
we don't have our own Twitter page specifically for well-being services.
Yeah.
But our organisation
Oh, as a general one, yep. Cool. And up the back, I think it was Nadia, you mentioned, no? Oh, I thought I saw a hand popping up. So Twitter's quite interesting because I think my understanding of Twitter, and I don't use it much, so I could be, I'm not the total expert in this space, but my understanding of Twitter is that it's more used by journalists and MPs and local government, and those are the sorts of, and it's a really good channel for getting in for getting in touch with them because they're more responsive in that space. So if you're wanting to talk to a local councillor or an MP, you're more likely, or you're potentially more likely to get engagement with them in that space. But in terms of general everyday people kind of on Twitter, I'm not sure if it's that strong, but I'm not a total expert in that space. But it's good to, I guess the main takeaway from this is try and work out where your audience is spending the most time on and go there, whether it's WeChat, whether it's Facebook, whether it's Instagram or Twitter. So setting up your brand, this is kind of just like basic first things first thing. If you're starting from scratch, or even if you're kind of, you've started and you haven't done a lot of work in it, a really good thing is just to make sure that you've got everything set up properly. So make sure that your profile picture is nice and clear, it's not pixelated, and it's kind of, set up right. One of the tricky things about these channels, these social media platforms like Facebook and Instagram, is they change things a lot on you and they don't really give you a lot of heads up. So they might change the orientation. The profile picture goes from a square to a circle, or it gets bigger and smaller, and your profile banner thing, they change the dimensions of that all the time. So it's worth making sure that you're checking in every so often and just making sure that it looks good, because if you're a professional organisation and people come to your page, they want to know, that you guys are, working professionally, and it's one of those image things where it just gives people more of a confidence that you're kind of on top of these things. Making sure you've got all your contact details on there, so you've got your phone number, you've got your hours of operation, which is really handy if they're wanting to contact you during business hours. Setting up your about page, giving a really good explanation of your service, and you'll probably have these things on your websites as well, so you can kind of just copy and paste that across. And you can also set up your messenger. You can have auto responses so that if people message your page after hours and you're not able to respond, you can set up an auto response saying, hey, thanks for your message, we're not currently working, but we'll get back to you as soon as we can in the morning, or during business hours. And so this is an example of when we were setting up small steps, we kind of just made sure that we had kind of a consistent approach, testing things out and showing what it would look like, kind of both as a kind of larger image and the small little icons when it's popping up in the news feed. So just having that sort of stuff and having that information around colours and stuff just helps with the consistency. If you're going to do other things like make posts that might include your organisation colours, just having that consistency really helps your brand. And so the other thing, once you've set up your page, it's really good to have a think about how you come across in your posts when you're talking to your audience, when you're doing posts, anything around text in there. So this is just a table which is an example of some of the ways that we spoke for two of our pages, which are quite a bit different. So we've got the small steps page, which is depression.org, the lowdown, which is aimed at young people, and a little column if you want to add your own thing later on. So if we look at the purpose of the page, so for the small steps page, we're wanting to talk to people who might be experiencing depression and anxiety and are wanting to seek help and also drive them through to the website. Whereas the purpose of the lowdown was kind of to cast a wider net to develop awareness of the lowdown and amongst all teenagers, and so that they know that what it is and what it's about for when they need it. So for the audience, small steps, this was always the fun part. We're talking to all people 20 and up, which is pretty tricky. And for the lowdown, we're connecting with teenagers 13 to 19. So if you look at that, if you're trying to talk to everyone, 20 and up versus, teenagers 13 to 19, much easier to talk in that space as opposed to the kind of much broader space. It makes your messaging a lot more difficult when you're trying to talk to everyone. In terms of voice, so this is the thing where you think, okay, if my social channel was a page, my organisation, what's our organisational values, and if this page was a person representing the organisation, how would they speak? So for the small steps page, we wanted to be sincere, personable, helpful. So, if people were commenting on posts and saying that they were having a hard time, we wanted to be able to respond to them and say, hey, thanks for commenting, thanks for reaching out, and respond to them in a really appropriate clinical way. Whereas with the lowdown, younger audience, a lot of our content was around humorous images and memes. So we wanted the voice to be humorous and topical, talking about things that mean things to young people, like school ball season and exams and all those sorts of things that are meaningful to them and will engage with them. But also being able to link those back to the kind of more serious topic of mental health as well, because we've got to be able to engage with them where they are and what they're on there for. They're on there for entertainment, so we've got to kind of cut through all the cat videos and all those sorts of things. In terms of content, we had quite a range of content for the Small Steps page. So we had things like video, which was campaign stuff, but also stuff from our website, with still images, simographs, I don't know if those exist anymore, GIFs, which are little kind of repeatable videos which kind of loop over and over again, and mini infographics. For the lowdown, we were centering more primarily around memes. Does anybody know who knows what memes are? Yeah, a few people. Just funny images. The word meme actually it's kind of related to genes. So genes, we know what genes are, genetic kind of code that is passed on. Memes are like the cultural equivalent of a gene. So it's kind of like replicable units of cultural knowledge. It's just funny stuff that people share, basically. So that's what memes are, and it's pronounced meme. It's not meme. Goals. So in terms of goals for the channel, so for Small Steps, we were wanting people to watch the videos, traffic through to the website, engage with our posts, and a general awareness of the campaign. And for the lowdown, we were wanting engagement. We're also wanting awareness and traffic through to the site as well. Any questions on the stage? Nope. Cool. Now, the next step, once you've got your page set up and you've worked out how you're going to talk to the audience, talk to your community, what you want to do is create a schedule. And this is basically going to make things a lot easier for you when you're making your content, because the last thing you want to do is, whoever's looking after this, come into the office and then go, right, what are we going to post about today? And then spend, time working out, okay, cool, right, get this topic, make the image or whatever, and then, all right, write something up, okay, cool, right, post that up, get it all signed off, whoever has to review it, and then cool, done that, and then do that the next day and the next day, or however many days you do it in a week. So what we do is we create a schedule. We essentially create a month schedule of all the content that we're going to post in a month, and we'll develop that all up in one go. And that means that you can kind of have an overview of what you're going to be talking about. You can go, okay, this month First week we're going to have some funny images to engage people. Samoan Language Week is coming up, so we're going to do a post on that in the second week. And the third week, I don't know, it's Valentine's Day, so we'll do something around that people are going to relate to. Fourth week, there's the finals of the local rugby match versus that team from out of town that we don't like, so we're going to put something up about that, which is going to resonate with the local community. So you batch, you kind of create a schedule, decide on what you're going to do. So this is kind of what a basic example of what a schedule might look like. So you'll have kind of the date. You also have the time, so the time's really important. And the time relates to, I guess, when your audience is going to be most engaged. And this is something that, you can, either based on your knowledge of the audience, because you might be part of the community that you're kind of trying to reach out, or you can have a bit of a play with this and test different times, morning, midday, evening, what works best. So for example, Monday, if you're anything like me, one first things that you do in the morning is grab your phone, check your social, and you've got updates. So you might test a post in the morning and go, all right, well, let's see how this goes, because a lot of people check their phones first thing in the morning. You might put one at 8 o'clock at night, which is after Shortland Street or whatever show. I don't watch Shortland Street, but whatever shows go on at night. That might be a prime time for your audience. You know that they're engaged, so you schedule a post for them. Or Friday, Friday is a day when people are, kind of tuning out at work and they go on social at lunchtime to have a bit of a break, and that's a time when people are really engaged. So, timing your posts to make sure that you're taking advantage of those sorts of things that you know about your audience. Another point is being really specific about what you're trying to achieve. So if it's engagement and it's just generally building up knowledge about a particular issue, if you're doing a post on something, or if you're trying to, just generally get people to be aware of yourself as an organisation or a page and engagement, likes, reactions, all that sort of stuff, that's cool. If you're wanting to drive people through to your website for more information, then be real clear about that so you know what you're trying to do, and that, I guess that affects the content that you're making, the posts, when you're having a really clear call to action and links that are easy to see and that aren't too buried kind of deep within the bottom of your text. If you're wanting them to call you to reach out, make sure that you've got that really clear and an understanding. So you might have, in 1 week, so this is a potential example of a week, you might have one post which is about engagement, one post that's about clicking through the website, and one post which is about promoting your helplines to call your organisation. And then, as I mentioned, having, getting these things signed off. And so this is something that's going to work different for every organisation. When I was working on the mental health program, because we deal with a area that has clinical risk, we had to make sure that our posts were clinically safe. So we had a process where the marketing team would develop, or our agency would come up with a creative, our marketing team would review it, our operations team would review it from a clinical perspective, and then if there were any changes made, make the changes, come back, final review, signed off by the manager, and then posted live. So that was kind of like our process, and we knew that we had to line people up right at the start of the month, make sure we line up everybody, get that all signed off. Ooh, where did that come from? Sorry. Is that a question? I don't know where that came from. So that makes it really easy to, once you get those systems set up, because if you're able to do it and sign it off, that's all good. But usually, if you've got a bit of a strategy on, there are some people who like to make sure that things are okay. So having these things set up in the beginning will help make things a lot easier once you've got the process running. So the next step, once you've worked out your schedule, this kind of can switch around with the content development, but got your schedule set, and then you start developing your content. And the big thing with this, I think, there's two ways of having content pushed out to your audience. You can put money behind it, or you can do it organically. And because, a lot of organisations don't have budget specifically for this sort of thing, one of the best strategies you can do is you can create value for your audience. So make sure that you're creating content that, either entertains or it informs, or it gives them something. It's going to make them stop on the newsfeed. So if you're on Facebook and you think about yourself, and you're scrolling down your newsfeed and you've probably, got a whole bunch of things that pop up, things from your family, things from pages you like, and then something from your organisation pops up, and you think, okay, how is that post that you're going to put up, if you put yourself in the shoes of your audience, what's going to make them stop and not scroll on to another cat video? What's going to make them stop? And in your knowledge of your audience, what's going to engage with them the most? So some of the examples of some of the things that we've done in the past, we've done videos which are either campaign videos or content from our websites, image posts. You can ask questions with polls, you can have just text, you can have links from websites or news articles that are relevant to your work and that might be relevant to your audience. One of the things that you can do, and this is where it might differ from some of the stuff that we do, is have content that's relevant to your local audiences. So whether it's your events that you're holding in the community, whether it's just sharing other people's events that are happening in the community and let people know about them, if it's sports matches, school holidays, local elections, if it's stuff that, getting the community involved and getting them to, share their audience, could be community activities that promote overall well-being, which is, I guess, some of the end goals of what we're trying to do with the services. Messages from local heroes or community leaders, and we've done things in the past with influencers, which have been quite good, like social influencers on Instagram and Facebook. But one of the things that could work in your space, if you have networks with community leaders and people in your community who have a lot of mana and leadership, or who are well known, your kind of local heroes who can deliver messages who people will listen to. So that's one thing that you guys can think about that might be adding to your content schedule. Another thing is just around authentic content, and I think that this point is around that content doesn't have to be super professionally polished all the time. And I'm sure we've all seen examples of someone doing a selfie video in their car. A lot of people do videos in their car. It's kind of like a little booth kind of thing, and talking really passionately about a subject, or saying something that's quite funny or entertaining, and it's just done on their phones, and it's just kind of a selfie thing. But these sorts of videos can go viral, and it's not because it's in spite of not being really slick and spent lots of money on developing it or even flash equipment. It's because the content's relevant and it's authentic. And so that's some of the things that you can potentially do to think about when you're developing content. You're worrying about, this isn't as flash as some of this other stuff that's out there. The authenticity and the engagement and the relevance to your local community, that's probably more important than it necessarily looking flash. So this is an example, this is just an example when we were starting the Small Steps page. So we started that, I think it was started last year. And because we were starting out fresh, we were starting a new page, we had no likes, we had no cred. So we had a basic strategy, a whole bunch of different content types that we were going to test, and we were going to say, okay, we're going to try a bunch of these things, see what works, and then adapt, and do more of the stuff that works, and the stuff that doesn't engage so much, not do so much of. So we had stuff from the campaign, we had posts on kind of current events and stuff that was topical, information posts, videos, content, Māori Pacifica from the content of the website, some stories from sharers. And this slide shows some of those things. So, we had good old Sir John Kerwin, some of the campaign imagery. We had some, on the top right, we had some information, some practical steps, 3 ways to de-stress at work. Had some interesting comments on there, people saying leaving work de-stress them from work. Some of the stuff down the bottom, we had a really great video from Dr. Evangeline Daniela, who talked about how mental distress feels for Pacifica, and that was a really awesome video that we had on the website. Pulled that out, and that got a lot of engagement on that. The one in the middle was there was a guy who was doing, he started a Facebook page on, was it Cowshed Karaoke, or something like that. It was like farming karaoke, and that was quite topical. It was on the news, so we highlighted him and got a whole bunch of engagement on that because it was really topical. And he commented on that post himself. And then also the last one on the right there is one of our sharers, Vesna, who shared her journey with depression and anxiety and talking about her experiences. So pulling out a quote from her story and linking people through to the website, which got a lot of engagement. But what was really interesting was one of the post types that our agency suggested. It was about 6 months in. They came up with this post, and I was looking at it, and I was like, really? It's like this quote. You see that the motivational posts that a lot of people share, and I was looking at it, and I was like, I don't know about that. It's a little bit basic. Just had a not nice image in the background, but it was quite generic, and it had a really great whakatoki, Māori proverb. It was really nice, but I was just thinking, are people really going to like that? I was like, But because we had this monthly strategy, and I go, okay, we'll do one of these posts, we'll give it a crack, and if it works, cool. If it doesn't, we won't worry about that. What happened was, it actually was the most engaging post, even more so than an image of JK, which had been our previous top ones for obvious reasons. So it was, our top post by far at that point, and I think this one still is actually. So it was our top post by far, nearly 2,000 shares, of nearly 4,000 reactions, and that orange line is, so the light orange is organic reach and the dark orange is paid. And so what that means is that out of the 162,000 people who saw this, the orange part, so the dark orange is the people who, we put money behind this post, and those are the ones who saw it as a sponsored ad that you might see sometimes. But the light orange is the ones that saw it because a friend clicked on it, or someone tagged them in it, or they shared it, a friend of theirs shared it, and they saw it from there. So the organic reach on this one was huge, and so we were like, okay, that's ridiculously amazing. And I think our page, the page likes went up about 2,000 people from that single post. So of course we did a lot more of those posts after that. And I ate my hat. So I guess that's an illustration of trying a bunch of different things and seeing what works, and then adapting your strategy to suit. And so this is an example of a post from our Choice Not Chance page, and this one was quite engaging as well. So just want to throw it out to you guys. What are some of the things that you think made this work?
Honest, and it's funny.
Yep. Topical.
Everyone can recognise that character.
Yes, that's a really good one. And so everybody can recognise who that is. Does anybody not know who that is? No one will admit it. That's cool. Yes, so everybody knows that's Pinocchio, the boy who lies. His nose grows when he lies. So it's easy to understand. Yes, someone else said that in Wellington, and it was interesting because I was like, oh, I never thought about that. But it does relate to that sort of kind of humour. So that was it's interesting that you pointed that out. What about the text? The text up the top there, if you can read it. Anything that you can kind of see that might make that work?
It's quite casual.
Yep.
Which can be engaging.
Yep. Absolutely, it's casual language. It's short. It's not a long screed of text you'd have to kind of wade through. It's just really short. Asks a question to engage with the audience. And then there's an easy call to action there. Check to see your gambling is still sweet. 2-minute quiz, sounds easy. It's confidential, so puts your mind at rest. And so That's some of the things that we think about when we're making posts. You try and make it easy. Again, putting yourself in the shoes of your audience. You want to make it easy for them to understand. You want to make it engaging. You want to make it, if you can link them in with humour. Humour is great. Humour works really well with our communities. And you'll know, if there's anything local that you can kind of tag onto, that's really useful as well. Topical, because this was during the World Cup. I'm sure we could have done a follow-up after the semi-finals. Yeah, probably could have done a follow-on up after that. And a really clear call to action about checking your gambling.
It's also easy to share without calling anybody out. So, I think I might have shared that one.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
It's an easy way to put it out there as
Yep.
I'm not calling anyone out on what they can look.
Yeah. Well, if this, sorry if this relates to you, but I didn't say your name.
Yeah, but also it's just a funny thing if that's how that you want to take it as well.
Yes, absolutely. Or you can tag your mate in it too.
Yeah.
And we do see a lot of that actually. We do see a lot of people tagging their mates in them and go, hey bro, that's you. Here's another, just another couple of examples of the way we do it in the lowdown space. So this is for young people, and just talking their language, and talking about the things that relate to them. So obviously, Instagram, a lot of young people use that as kind of a way to show that they're living their best lives, and they kind of project a best life kind of image on there. So this is kind of just taking a bit of a jab at that and kind of joking, oh yeah, you're always posting up these awesome photos, but you're just in front of your computer screen, faking them with your fingers. So there's that. Also, the one on the right there about forgetting everything once you get back to class. Sometimes I feel like that when I go on holiday at work and I come back and my mind's like that too. So stuff that people can relate to. That's engaging, that's funny, but also with those two posts. So the one on the left there talks about linking to a topic on self-esteem that we've got content on the website. So hey, we like to project this image, but if you're feeling like you need a bit of help in the space, check out this link. On the right there talks about school stress and study stress, and so we're using a funny meme about memory loss at school to talk about, hey, if you're feeling stressed about forgetting everything because exams are coming up, check out these tips about study stress on our website. Now this is, how are we doing for time? Oh wow, okay. Really not very good. So this now these are some websites where you can actually create some good content. I'm just going to warp through them quickly. And you have all these links. So this is basically, if you want to make some content yourself, there's a few cool websites and tools that you can do it. Canva is a really cool tool that you can use to design posts, and this it's either on a website, but it's also an app on Android or iPhone. And so I will just really quickly show you, there was a few ones that I was working on. Great thing about it is that it comes up with all these templates that you can use. And so I was playing around with this the other day. They give you a bunch of templates and you can just edit the different parts of them. So all you have to do is put in your text or put in your content. So you might go, I don't know, Auckland, hurrah, and then you go, oh, that one's okay. You might change to something like that. There's a whole bunch of different types, which are pretty cool. I thought that was a glass of wine. I was going to say that's not really appropriate. But so this is a tool that you can use to create, kind of text posts. What I also found out, which was quite interesting, is you can also make infographics on this, which was really cool. And I'll see if I can find. I think it's under My Designs. So you can make infographics as well. So I was just playing around with this in the break, and so you can actually create, infographics for your social pages as well. This was about kids, and I was starting to play around with some of the text on that. So that's Canva. So again, Canva talks about online design. Pixlr is kind of like Photoshop. So has anybody used Photoshop before? Have you got it at work? If you haven't got it at work, this is essentially a free version within your browser. So if you've ever wanted to use Photoshop or try it out, but you don't have it, you can do it within a browser. So you just go to Pixlr, and it's got all the. It's basic version, but you can, you can add text, you can manipulate photos, you can arrange them, you can edit them. So that's really handy to have. And then if you need images, if you need stock images, I think with Pixlr they have them within here. No. Well, they do. But also, if you're looking for free images that you don't have to pay money for, Unsplash is a really good website. So you can check that out. Say if you're looking for gambling. And it comes up with a bunch of free images that you can use in posts, which is really handy. And if you want to make memes as well, you can go to that website, but you really got to know what you're doing with memes. So find the youngest person in your organisation and ask them about that. So this is just an overview of what, once you kind of start filling out your content schedule might look like. So you might have the draft image, some text, and then you kind of go through, get that signed off by whoever needs to sign it off. Once you've got your content schedule, then you deliver the content, and what you can do is you can kind of, in Facebook, you can batch everything, you can schedule them all, you can load them all up, load all your posts for the whole month, and you can schedule them so they just go up when you want them to, so you don't have to kind of do that manually, which is really handy. And then you keep an eye on it. You look at what's working, what's not, like the example with the quote post, and you do more of what's working. Making sure that, when your posts go up, you're checking them, are people asking you questions, responding to them, and, checking at least once a day. If things get negative, and sometimes you do get some negative feedback, just a few tips around dealing with people. Sometimes people are, offering honest criticism, sometimes people are just being unhelpful people or trolls, in your organisations, you probably have policies for dealing with people, who have complaints or who, and those sorts of things can apply to the social space as well. One thing you can do is on your about pages, you can kind of have, hey, this is the organisation, this is our Facebook page, here are the terms of engaging on here, and you can keep it light. You can say, look, we want this to be a positive space. If you're going to be argumentative, slagging people off or swearing or attacking people, we'll probably block you from the page. Sorry about it, but this is our space, we want to keep it positive. And then just enforce that. So if people are going to be, arguing and commenting, you just block them. Or you hide their posts, hide their posts. And you can also set up, within the settings, you can usually set up a profanity filter. So if people start swearing, automatically gets blocked and it doesn't pop up. So some of the ways you can increase your reach, so particularly if you don't have budget for boosting posts, one really good thing is to post regularly. Stick to your schedule. Usually would say if you were starting out, or if you've got a strategy that doesn't have a lot of money behind it, would say at least 3 to 4 times a week, and then posting up stuff regularly. Any topical stuff that comes up as it arises. Having good quality content, sharing other organisations' posts. One organisation that does this stuff, I think, really well, and I'm a bit biased because I used to work for them, is Levar. So they do a lot, and I'll just quickly scan through. Oh, I've got a message, Michaela's messaging me, it's awkward. So Levar, one of the things that they do really well, they actually post multiple times a day, it's been insane, but they also do a lot of sharing of the events that they do out in the community, and I saw Maka Maya was doing some of that stuff as well. They're doing a lot of community workshops, posting up about them. I don't know, let's give me... So they do a lot of stuff, posting up the stuff that they're doing out in the community, stuff about their team, stuff about, general stuff about things that are relevant to the community, and more workshop stuff. So they're getting out there doing it, posting quite regularly, relevant articles on, stuff about well-being. So they do a really good job. So if that's something, you can go check out their page to get a few hints and tips on stuff that might work for your space. The last point in this space, and this is an example of how things change all the time in the social space. So who's familiar, who knows of any local community pages on Facebook? Can you name any from your?
You're from Rotorua when ...
Oh yeah, cool. Any others? So I know there's a few Poreroa ones. I'm from Tukuroa, and there's the Genuine Tukuroa page, which has all the town dramas on it. But these are also examples of places where your community are online that there's a potential to engage with them on. And what was interesting, because this was before I was working in the gambling harm space last year when they had the kind of super pokey venue merger thing with Pockets 8 Ball, and they were trying to create this big thing. And there was so many conversations going on, with people in the community. Some were for it, some were against it, and a lot of, conflict. And there's an opportunity, I think, for organisations to potentially engage in conversations in that space. And you got to be, I guess, as organisations in this area, you kind of have to be a bit, you got to be savvy about the way you do it, because you know, you can easily kind of attract you know, people saying, oh, you're just against it, for you guys are all biased, or I guess it depends, and you'll know your communities. I mean, it's the same thing. You'll know your local communities in reality, and you also know what these sorts of areas are like. So think about the ways that you might be able to engage them. Now, as I was mentioning with the changes, so you used to be able to post as a page on these sorts of pages, I think, and so, you know, you could potentially share your community events in these sorts of pages. But I checked recently, and just to throw my presentation, now you can't do it. But it might change back soon. So I guess this is just kind of highlighting there are local pages and opportunities where you can engage in the conversations that your communities are having to, I guess, you know, put your information out there, but also raise your profile as well. And this last thing is just kind of, as you know, once you've started going, developing, you know, delivering your content, and seeing how it's going, just making sure that you're adapting and adjusting your strategy. As I mentioned, you know, reviewing your posts, seeing which ones are working, and checking which ones, you know, making sure that you're looking at they're doing what they're supposed to do. So you might have a post that you wanted to link people through to your website, and it got a lot of engagement, but no one clicked through to your website. So you might have a look at that and go, okay, well, how do I make that better? Do I need to lift the link up higher in the post, or you know, is there something else I need to tweak so that they click on the link? Or maybe they're not interested in clicking the link and they just want to engage, and then you go, okay, well, how can we, you know, take advantage of that to improve, you know, our strategy going forward? As I mentioned, things change a lot in this space, so just making sure that you're keeping on top of the different changes that Facebook and Instagram are making to, you know, their platforms, so that you can maximize your impact in that space is really useful. So that is pretty much it. So I guess that's my cue to finish up. So yeah, just as a summary, social media can be a really good way of engaging with your local audience. So, you know, we encourage you to develop a strategy and be really clear about what you're wanting to achieve with it. Go where your audiences are online and create value for them. I think that's kind of like the main key takeaway when it's like create content, create value for them, keep on top of the constantly shifting environment that is social media, and most of all have fun with it. So yeah, so that's what we've got for today. Unless there's any